Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Was the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. This is the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com, streaming live on band.video and 79days.news. I'm your host, Owen Shroyer, with you for the next 3 hours. We are joined by Patrick Byrne, former Overstock CEO. Many may call him a genius. I don't know if he would describe himself that way as he's shaking his head, but very successful as a businessman. I also learned some other stuff about Patrick as I was doing my research today, but we can get into that later, Patrick. You right now are doing some yeoman's work right now, exposing election theft. You know, I want to make it clear to the audience, you don't come at this from any sort of partisan standpoint. You're not even a Trump supporter. This is something that neutrally you've been observing for 4 years. We have 2 minutes of a short segment here, and then we'll come back with 4 10-minute segments. So just briefly in 2 minutes, talk about what's been going on behind the scenes for years investigating this election theft with the electronic voting machines and what's about to come to light for the public to see.
Sure. Let me just point out, I'm not one to beat my chest about it, but I built a $2 billion e-commerce company from scratch. I know something, that's Overstock.com. I left a year ago. I'm not associated with them anymore. But I think it's one of the only large sites that never, ever got hacked. That's because I'm a fanatic. I was a fanatic about cybersecurity, the firm. So I know we're dealing with about a thing or two here. These voting systems, in particular Dominion, are garbage, absolute garbage. On a scale of 1 to 10, their hackability, the hackers I'm working with estimated at or rank it as a 2, maybe a 1. It's unbelievable that this has passed muster. There has been a massive fraud in this election. It was hacked. I am not a Trump. Once I'm not a, well, I did not vote for Donald Trump in either election. I'm a libertarian. I'm sure this is not partisan. I can promise you 100% this stuff is garbage technology, extremely porous, probably designed to be that way. It has functionality that Hugo Chavez wanted built into systems in Venezuela so he could stay presidente for life. It got imported into the U.S. and over the last 15 years through a series of licensing agreements and court bankruptcies and corporate mergers and acquisitions, it became, believe it or not, Hugo Chavez's, the functionality he wanted built into his systems are embedded into systems in America. They absolutely were used in the last election. The fraud was not widespread, as the Democrats say. Don't puke all over yourself. They're actually right about that. It's not widespread. It's narrow and deep in 6 places that they figured out, 6 counties. If you just hijack the election and cheat massively in these 6 counties, you can flip the 6 states they're in, and hence the Electoral College. The fraud is not coming from the voters. It is not. It's coming from the election officials.
We'll dig into this in 90 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. This is the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com, broadcasting live at band.video and 79days.news. I'm your host, Owen Shroyer, with you for the next 3 hours. And with us for the next hour is former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne, who just over a year ago, according to CNBC.com, he can care to comment on this later, sold all his shares, blaming the deep state and SEC. But he's with us today to talk about the hacking, as he calls it, of our elections. And of course, when you have an electronic voting system with back doors built into it, it's wide open for hacking. And Patrick is well versed in technology. He started a website, overstock.com, that's worth billions of dollars now. He has removed himself from involvement in that. But also, other things I learned about you, Patrick, just to put it out there before we get started with you breaking down this election theft. You are a cancer survivor, so that's very neat and unique. Good for you. Also, if you see him in the streets, don't mess with him. He's a black belt, so he'll whoop your butt pretty good. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana, northern Indiana. I actually have some family out there, very salt of the earth people. And also, I found out that you studied in China, so I'm curious if you speak Chinese or if any of your experience in China helped you understand what's going on with these systems. But that's a little background into you. A humble.
我是北京师范大学毕业的，1983年到1984年，我挂了在北京师范大学。Yeah, I'm graduated from the Beijing Teachers University in 1983-84 is what I was telling you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were insulting me or complimenting me or speaking gibberish, but so the answer is yes, you do speak some Chinese. And I'm curious if your experience in China helped you understand what's going on with the hacking of our election. But let's get into this. Now, in the intro, you broke it down. It's not widespread voter fraud. You say it's narrow voter fraud, where they pinpoint 6 counties in the United States that can flip swing states and thus flip the Electoral College, and then how they hone in on the electronic voting machines in those areas. So this is something that you've been studying, and you've been sharing this information with lawyers and others for years. I'm curious if you can name some of those lawyers. But what have you guys been studying about Dominion and electronic voting machines for years? And then what is about to come to public knowledge now that all eyes are on these electronic voting machines?
A lot of questions in there. What's been studied in 2018, the Dallas elections had irregularities. And the state government of Texas hired an elite cybersecurity group to investigate these irregularities, which occurred on Dominion voting systems. And so that cybersecurity firm has had, which is Emma, former military intelligence and law enforcement federal types. They've had 2 years to study what the rest of America is trying to unscramble in the last 2 weeks. I got with them and another cybersecurity firm starting in July, August, and started funding and bringing in additional hackers and other kinds of researchers and other elements. We had this all mapped out. Something for the historians to look at later is why DHS, we had opportunity to present this to DHS and the group called CISA, C-I-S-A, which is the infrastructure group that last week the head of it got fired, but he had come out and said this is the most secure election in history. That group not only pushed back against letting us have briefings, they did not come to the briefing that was provided. They refused to come back in August. That's interesting. And so these various hackers and ethical hackers and elite private cybersecurity people with federal backgrounds really came up with at least 10 ways you can beat an election when it's running on Dominion or probably one of its other competitors too. And when I say hack, among technologists, there's hacking that involves a keyboard and a backdoor and a bunch of electronic stuff. There's other kinds of hacking that just kind of means cheating, right up to what among hackers, the ultimate hack is a social hack where you call up and just sort of talk your way and manipulate people to get to cheat. In this case, there are at least 10 hacks in the Dominion voting systems, and some of them are technological. But really, without even thinking too much of that, of course, by this time, everyone understands this was built back in Venezuela. Odd that we would have Venezuela. I'm not sure that looking for good, robust election technology, the first place I would look is Venezuela. But it was built by Hugo Chavez so he could stay El Presidente for life. So it actually has functionality that it should not have. It gives way too much discretion to local precinct commanders to do all kinds of things that local administrators should not have the privilege to do, that completely invalidates any election security you would expect to be in these systems. Those functionalities, when this stuff was imported into the U.S. through Florida about 15, 16 years ago, those functionalities stayed within it. And even though people have built new stuff on top of it, that core functionality, which lets administrators do things they really shouldn't be able to do, like move votes around and generate blank ballots and all kinds of things, that stayed within the systems. So there's that kind of reason these systems are bad. And then on top of that, there's a deeper problem, another problem, in that, so it's bad in the sense of the election officials can actually, if they work in concert or even individually, they can do all kinds of cheating.
Basically, at the end of the day, if they wanted to change the results, they could.
They can. And worse than that, yes, and worse than that, Dominion's systems are widely infected with a malware called Q-Snatch. And Q-Snatch is a credential stealer. So as in Maricopa County, some precinct, as some volunteer goes to log on, or the administrator goes to log on, his credentials are stolen. And if you look this up online in hacker journals, they estimate, I think, 75,000 of their machines across the country are so compromised. That means all the credentials of those people are stolen out on the dark web for sale, or else they're off in Xi'an, China, where the military hacking base is. So as a result of these two facts, not only do those administrators of the local voting precincts have far more discretion than they should, that can be hijacked from somebody over in China, and so they can come, and somebody in China can come and manipulate votes and change things. Though the combination of those two facts is decisive, that anything that involved these systems this year, there's just no way to know what would really happen because the security is so bad.
And just from your experience in China, and I'm sure that you could talk about the Communist Chinese Party up there, do you believe there'd be any will that they would have the desire to get into those systems and maybe flip a result?
Yes, the Chinese, there's a book that your readers should follow. Can I use the last minute 45 to tell you folks something really important? Really important. You probably know who Peter Navarro is in this administration. He's one of President Trump's close advisors. Peter Navarro is the protege of a man named Michael Pillsbury. Michael Pillsbury was a lifelong China dove. Went with Nixon and Kissinger to China in '71, a lifelong China dove. He came out in 2015 and he wrote a book that basically said he was wrong. I was wrong my whole life. The book was called The 100-Year Marathon. He says that China in 1949 adopted a 100-year plan to take down the U.S. and replace us with as the world's superpower. Basically, by the time he wrote the book, they were 66 years into the plan, but they were running about 20, 25 years ahead of schedule. In that plan, the ultimate, and it's fairly open within the Chinese literature, he points out, but it's open, but in a way that you'd have to be a really good speaker of Chinese to understand. And I won't go into the details of why, but in particular, their great hope is something called the Assassin's Mace. And the Assassin's Mace is a way you defeat your enemy without having to actually go to war. And for 5 years, there's been this great question in our national security circles of what is their assassin's mace? Is it their hypersonic? Is it this, that? No, that's not what it is. They figured out the way you can take down the U.S. is corrupt our election machinery.
All right, let's pick right up on that point when we come back from this break. Again, former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne with us. You're back in the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com. Former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne is with us. I've got a lot of questions for him, but I want him to continue to lay out, first of all, what he was getting into at the end of last segment, and then get back into the 2020 elections and how it applies. But, Patrick, I had asked you if you believe there was any will or desire or even execution of Chinese communists to influence or hack our elections, and you were just getting into the realities of that before the break cut you off.
Yeah, basically read the 100-year marathon. It's accurate. It is. I actually was there for the beginning when I was there the first year they opened up to Western students. I spent what was supposed 3 months. It was supposed to be 3 months. I ended up spending over a year. And then went on to Southeast Asia. I happen to love the Chinese. I love the Chinese. There's a reason I went there and studied, but I'm not a big fan of the Chinese, the Chi-Coms, the government. Part of my undergraduate work was actually on Marx, and I ended up doing a PhD in political philosophy because I'm enamored of the intellectual history behind the U.S. Constitution, which runs from the Hebrews to the Greeks, the Romans, the English, the Dutch, and us. And Flowers, its apotheosis is the U.S. Constitution. That's my religion. You guys, all you Christians out there, God bless you. That's my religion, that intellectual history. And that's what I'm committed to. So, yeah, I do think there's a will from Chi-Com. This probably is the assassin's mace. They planned all this time. My guess is they had to accelerate it 4 to 10 years faster than they had anticipated. But anyway, I don't want to, there's no reason to go back into who's really deeply behind this. Let's just focus on, for now, let's check they teach in the Army, you do your 20-meter targets first and then your 50-meter let's take our 20-meter targets and talk about why I'm 100% confident this election was rigged, just people dealing off the bottom of the deck.
Well, get into the 6 counties or how they can, because you say it's not widespread. They've scientifically, mathematically been able to narrow it down to, a handful of counties where they know if they can just get enough numbers in those counties, they can then flip the swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and then they can then flip the Electoral College to go to whatever candidate they choose.
You got it. You got it. And they studied it carefully, whoever is behind this, and that was the strategy. It's apparent. It stands out of the numbers like a neon sign that's how they did it. It was very real good chess playing, who's ever on the other side of this. So let's not talk completely in the abstract. I'm not going to go through all 10 different ways of cheating, but let me pick one. You fill in your ballot, you go up to enter it into a Dominion machine. If it can't read it clearly, it gives you a warning. You have the option, your precinct worker will tell you, okay, you can take it and fill it out again and wait in line 2 hours and try again. Or if you just hit the green button, Owen, that will be looked at tonight by humans and they'll figure out what you were trying to vote. And 95% of people hit that green button. What's really going on in the Dominion systems is a pool of ballots is being created that are the ballots for later adjudication. They're called adjudicable ballots. But what really is going on, so a precinct may have 600, 700 of those. An administrator can come by anytime he wants and grab and drop them onto the candidate of choice, Joe Biden. So you've essentially you've surrendered your vote to whoever that precinct administrator is. I hope you like them.
And let's just put this into practical purposes, because this is different than, say, having a hacked machine or something. This is an actual quote unquote ballot that, say, like in Arizona, they're using the Sharpies. Oh, it bleeds over to Biden or it bleeds over to Trump, and then somebody sits down with a stack of, say, 1,000 and says, well, they all look like Biden, so I'm just going to put them in for Biden.
Yeah, and he doesn't even sit down with a stack. He can come by and in 3 seconds just drag and drop them, like files on your computer. Yes, and so really there's 3 steps to understanding. One step is to understand this functionality exists in the machine that really should not rest with administrators to do things like that. Secondly, that there are the lived experiences that are pouring in from these 6 different locations and have been pouring in for 3 weeks as of today. And we have grassroots people collecting affidavits and all that stuff. And the lived experiences, such as being told you got to get rid of your ballpoint, you have to have a Sharpie, and the precinct workers who were told the day before the election they got all the ballpoints out of the place and crates of Sharpies were brought in and such. You can look at it this way. If the machinery, if they were planning on doing these kinds of tricks using the internal functionality to do these kinds of things, you would expect voters and precinct workers to have a certain set of experiences on the day of voting. Well, what do you know? In those 6 places, they have exactly that set of experiences. And then in addition, you can look at the statistical outcomes, and there are events that are happening with improbabilities of a quadrillion to 1 have happened all over in those 6 precincts. You know, strings of 1,000 Biden votes in a row, things like that. So you can take these 3 different approaches, 3 different narratives, that the equipment has this inbuilt functionality that's excessively lax, and that, by the way, anyone, if there's Q-snatch on the machine, then you don't know if somebody back in China has stolen the same functionality. Secondly, the experience of the people in the voting booths and in the precincts. And third, the statistical results. And those 3 narratives dovetail together perfectly. They fit each other perfectly. And it's extremely convincing. I mean, there's no question in my mind.
Well, and I was gonna ask you that, as you know, someone that was the former CEO of Overstock. This is a major tech commerce company. I mean, you start seeing statistical anomalies like this. I mean, immediately red flags, investigations. You're looking into it, right?
Of course, Overstock never got hacked successfully in our 20 years. There were 1,000 attempts a day to hack us most of the time. Never once was successfully hacked. And I'm not, again, I insist I'm not there anymore. I left over a year ago. But I was a fanatic on this stuff. And when I came to understand over the last 4 months how these things worked, I was shocked. The fix has to be in, even for the fact that these things got accepted and passed muster. It sure seemed to me that the fix was in. And what do you know? We're learning in the last few weeks, and we have affidavits, and even more than affidavits in one case, about election officials who were behind the adoption of Dominion equipment. There's some real mischief that seems to be associated with some of those decisions. And even Republican officials, I'm not, Republican officials who were behind getting those systems adopted may have had, there may have been private reasons they had to make such a decision that seems so much against the public interest.
Well, sure, Republicans like to win elections too. I'm just curious quickly, in the final 30 seconds of this segment, how long have you known about this? I know you've been looking into this since summer 2018, but how long have you really understood this information?
Well, August, September of this year. But however, once after the election of November 3rd, we pretty much had reverse engineered it by November 5th or 6th. My life, and I've worked with a team of people who are back in the background, different parts of the country, doing the real heavy lifting. I've been knocking on the doors trying to get the right people to listen.
Well, you're knocking it out of the park right now. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the InfoWars War Room. We have Patrick Byrne with us for the remainder of the hour here. Patrick, I've got questions I want to ask you, but before we get into you fielding my questions, is there anything else you want to report or say here about the hack of the 2020 election, or what you know, or any other information before I get into those questions?
You let me run through it concisely. Thank you, Owen. Go ahead with your questions.
So let me then ask you, how much have you shared this information, or should I say, whom have you shared this information with? And I'm assuming it's all of it, but members of Trump's legal team, other lawyers, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, who have you shared this information with, or been in contact with about this?
Well, First, I work for none of them. I've set up a command post. We've got information coming in from all over. I've got lawyers and all these people generating the material. I've offered to make it available to all the people around the president as well as the press. As you can guess, the mainstream press, I'm speaking to the choir here on that. I don't have to tell you what they're like. This has been shared with the president's people. And I'm not going to say too much, but Sydney and Rudy and their respective camps. But Sydney's not on the president's team, has been made clear. She's the Kraken. Sydney is the Kraken. That's the Kraken that's being released. Basically, and she was on this from a day or two after the election. She smelled bad. She's not a numbers person. She's the first to admit. She smelled skunk. She knew something was going on. And as we started coming in and providing all this stuff, she got it very quickly. She actually, it was more like confirmation to her of something she could feel in her bones had happened. And then I'd say it took maybe a few extra days to sort of get Rudy's team or the mayor's team to grok it. But they both, I would say that by the middle of last week or beginning of last week, both sides had fully grokked it, and you started seeing some directional changes and some changes in how they spoke starting about midweek. I'm not taking all credit for that. Like I say, Sydney was well down the line in understanding it all. She just needed someone to do the math for her, so to speak. But and I think their approaches are different in that Rudy wants to save the president by taking sniper shots that clear out legal impediments in front of him. Sydney wants to save the president, but she wants to do it by dropping a tactical nuke on the deep state. And if you ask me which strategy is correct, I'd say yes.
Well, and that was kind of my understanding, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, answer what you feel comfortable with, but it was my understanding that the legal approach from the mayor's team was differentiating from that of Sidney Powell's. And so the official Trump legal team said, all right, we want to focus over here. Let's look at the dead votes. Let's look at the mail-in ballots. Let's look at some of the actual laws that we can highlight, as you kind of put it, clear out the way for Sidney Powell to move through, while Sidney Powell is really focused on, hey, look, you may find a couple 100,000 votes over here, dead votes, illegal mail-in ballots, whatever. I've got the whole voting machine system that is rigged. We're talking about millions of votes, and that's why she says we're talking millions of votes. We're talking millions of votes. So, but is that kind of the understanding? Is that the attack formation?
That's pretty close. I would say, and I'm not going to be bayoneting any wounded here, but I would say that the mayor's team was very focused for a long time on the stuff about 241 dead people voted in Philadelphia, and trying to get there that way. It was Sydney's group, and it is different, and there's not a hidden. They're as divorce gets. I mean, there's no bad feelings, but they've realized they have different. But Sydney's team was focused quickly on, this isn't about 241 dead people in Philadelphia who voted. This is about somewhere between 300 and 600,000 illegal ballots in Pennsylvania getting counted or switched or fabricated. But Mr. Giuliani's gotten there too. I mean, he was correct to pursue all the 241 dead people, but he's also gotten to the point to understanding he and his people totally get. And I'd say they totally understand the depth of what has happened here. So they really both understand it. It's what you do with that. That there's some differences in approach, and it is, and so Sydney is not secretly reporting to the president or anything. She's on her own dime. I'd like to make one pitch for Sidney Powell. She has a website called Defend the Republic, I think it is. She's doing this on her own dime. I've coughed up some money. This is Save the Republic time. Everyone should go to that website and pitch in $10. $10 and she'll be fine. But she's hiring her own investigators and mathematicians and junior lawyers and all this stuff. It's going to be a couple, but if everyone listened to this ponied up a buck, she'd be just fine. So I'm going to give that pitch for her. The mayor has his own source. The campaign has its own source of funding. So it's defendtherepublic.com. Do you have that up on your site?
Guys, is that the right website? Defending the Republic?
Defending the Republic. Good for you. everyone listen to this. If you want to help me, your thanks are nice. I get thousands of letters of thanks. Go and toss in $5 to Sidney Powell. And this is, and it seems like you folks clearly get this from what I've been hearing of you today. This is it. If we lose this one, there's not a free election again in America. There hasn't been one in 20 years in Venezuela, a real election. This is it. And this is in Viking mythology, the Götterdämmerung, the twilight of the gods, where they all get together for the one last battle. Everything you folks have been preparing for at InfoWars, this is it.
Well, so, I wanted to bring up the angle of the Supreme Court, but I'll put that off for a second because you said
I'm
this.
Okay with that.
Well, I want to go down this route though, because this is actually, it's more important than anything. And you know, I'm at the gym, I'm having this conversation. I'm at my chiropractor's getting my neck snapped. I'm having the same conversation. But you're right. And I was going to ask you, you know, why are you fighting so hard? You didn't vote for Trump. You're fighting harder than any of the Republicans who are a member of his party. But that's the answer. I mean, you just answered the question right there. But in your own words, as you show your Bitcoin bombs, Bitcoin's not bomb shirt, in your own words, though, Patrick, why are you fighting so hard to expose this? Why do you care so much?
Well, it's one of those questions that if someone really has to ask, I'm not sure how to answer it. But like I said earlier, my religion, God bless you Christians, my religion is philosophical liberalism. And again, don't puke all over yourselves. What we are liberals. We are the liberals. They have stolen our word.
It's a classical liberal.
Well, this is philosophical liberalism. Judaism, the Greeks, the Romans, the Dutch, the English, the U.S. Constitution, that's the tradition of philosophical liberalism, which freed mankind. Until then, we had essentially been going around on all fours and been savages. Everything was about authority. Liberalism freed us. 90 years ago, socialism, authoritarianism, couldn't sell itself as socialism anymore after the U.S. got crosswise with the Soviet Union, and they stole our word and they started calling themselves liberals. They're the authoritarian socialists. We are the liberals. It's time we reclaim that word. This is my religion. And to me, the U.S. Constitution is that, I don't mean to get all verklempt, but it's that, you know, shining beacon on a hill. If the lights go out here, it goes out for the world. Could be another 1,000 years. We can't let it go out here. So while I'm a libertarian, swear on my eyes, I've never voted for a Republican or Democrat for president in my life. Did not vote for Mr. Trump in either election. But I'm not a never. You know, when Obama got elected, I said yes, sir, he's my president. When Trump got elected, said the same thing. So this is you know, Eleanor. I'll finish with on a note that people hope they pay attention to. Eleanor Roosevelt said, great minds speak of ideas, average minds speak of events, weak minds speak of people. Look at how devoid our discourse is of talking about ideas. And for 4 years, it's been obsessed with one person. I come at this from the point of view of ideas, philosophical liberalism. It's all coming down to this battle right now.
That's Patrick Byrne, former Overstock CEO, with us for one more segment. Don't go anywhere. You know, that's incredible timing. We did not plan for the Space Odyssey theme to come in, but I was going to ask former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne this question, a couple more questions. It's our last segment with him. But, you know, we just discovered a monolith in the desert of Utah. I don't know if you saw this, Patrick. And, you know, the universe has a mysterious way. I don't know if your classical liberalism can explain the anomalies of the universe, if you will, but no. the anomalies of the universe are out there. And this monolith seems to be one. Patrick, I kind of see this because apparently they've now discovered that this thing was sitting in there for, I guess, about 4 years. They've gone and done a Google Earth search, and they found that it's been there for 4 years, but it just got discovered when they were doing a flyby. The Department of Health or Public Safety in Utah doing a flyby on a helicopter. They saw it, but you know, it's funny because to me in the film it represents the idea, the concept, I guess, of apes becoming modern man, questioning for the first time, thinking for the first time, observing around them for the first time. Maybe he's not everything as what it seems. To me, that's this voter fraud issue. The voter fraud issue is the monolith. The voter fraud issue with the electronic exchange is the monolith, and we're touching it and we're having the awakening. Whoa, we haven't had free and fair elections. Whoa, we've had our elections that are actually selections. So that's just kind of a, I guess, an illustration.
Owen, that's a good point. I've been thinking something similar. I think I used the expression with your colleague Alex today that they may have broken their pick on this one because they really went they went all in. They it was go for broke. They knew if there was another Trump administration, there's the long decades long plan, the long march through the institutions, and all would have come for naught because so they went for broke. I think they may have broken their pick on this because if they don't pull this off, they're Dunsky. And so they went all in, and I think they almost got away with it. At this point, there is no question. I mean, this is open and shut. We got all the data, got all the evidence. We got hundreds of affidavits from precinct work, from locals, also from people who've been involved. There's all kinds of honest people coming clean and contacting us and saying, I was involved in this. I didn't understand what I was involved in until I've been putting the picture together, watching it, and they're getting it. So we have videos from people, of all kinds of things that contradict the official statements of politicians. There'll be a lot of people going to jail, or this stands and all of this gets erased and the rest of us are in concentration camps. And
which is what they literally said they want to do to us.
Yeah, what we're seeing, I didn't want to get too political. I really kind of want to stick to the facts of the election, but I will tell you, since you're open-minded to it, there's a certain pattern. If you read about PSYOPs and what the U.S. has done with PSYOPs in other countries, there's basically a 4-step process to taking over. And it is demoralization, disorientation, crisis, and then a new alternative, a legitimate source of power is proposed, and all of civil society bends and reinforces to the people that that's the right one. That's also sort of, in a sense, the Maoist technique. And we've gone through the demoralization with COVID. Not that I don't want to go much into, although I have had a briefing from some government scientists about COVID, but I'll set that for another day. What happened this summer seems to me to have been the disorientation. I was actually just walking by the FBI headquarters 2 days ago, and there's guys on motorcycles doing wheelies around in front, and nobody's doing anything. The point of that is to disorient everybody. Since the middle of summer, since the beginning of summer, they've been letting us know we are living in a new world. We're living in a world where the rules don't apply, where mobs can descend on people and beat people with impunity. That they have disoriented people with that. We have reached this crisis. Now they've proposed an alternative, illegitimate source of power. Well, they've held up through rigging this election. And again, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, never. But this is crooked as a hound's hind leg. What's gone on? They put up this. They used this election to rig. It was blatantly rigged by goons. I mean, you just see the movies of how people behaved in those 6 precincts. But all of civil society and the media, the captured media, has gone to reinforcing in the public's mind, this is president-elect. Who ever heard of a president-elect? I mean, that Obama introduced the term in 2008 or something, but there's no such official thing as an office of the president-elect.
Oh, yeah, and it's all a
narrative.
Exactly. It's a news rollout. Oh, Biden has elected this guy, selected this guy, keeping it in your mind to try to cement the fake election, as I call it.
Right, and trying to normalize that. And so when and if this stuff gets exposed, which it is now being exposed, it will be a hurdle to get people back and cause a lot of, to get people back and remember, well, actually, Biden never really was a president or president-elect or anything like that. CNN, I read the Constitution a few times in my life. I don't ever recall anything about CNN declares who the president is. There's a whole constitutional process that declares it. So that's what's really going on. Yeah, I do think this is a soft coup, and it has elements of this Maoist tradition in it. And where I lived in China, it was right after the great time of the Great Cultural Revolution. I was there just 7 years after that, and I saw the legacy, and I listened to all the stories. It was a lot of the things that happened there, from the Red Brigades going around and browbeating people and sort of acting with impunity, just goonism. I'm going to call it goonism. From the goonism we've seen in the last, number of months, to the goonism, some of which happened in the last days of the prior administration to the goonism that's now happening with regards to election, you can draw a straight line between those points. They all line up. This is a goon revolution. And the last step is they have gooned the election. I mean, scofflaw stuff. The stuff where a toilet broke, so we're shutting down the arena and everyone goes home for 3 hours.
We have a water main break in Georgia, so we have to stop counting.
Or goons going up to election workers and just muscling them around. That's scofflaw kind of behavior. So they have done that. They obviously have an illegitimate result. I mean, to anyone with a room temperature IQ,
you know what? Just hold it right there, because you said something earlier.
That goonism lines up. All that goonism is the same. It all lines up.
Well, and you said something earlier I wanted to go back to. You said, I forget who it was, but you said that there was another no-show. We had Dominion no-show in Pennsylvania. You were saying how, I guess it was maybe back when you were talking about what happened in Dallas when they were called in for hearings then, and they were supposed to show up, and they no-showed then too. So, I mean, this is an ongoing pattern. When they're supposed to testify, in defense of their electronic voting machines, they no-show.
You want to hear some more crazy stuff? Yeah, that's true. That's small potatoes. Here's some other crazy stuff. There's a fellow named Nick, a senior engineer within Dominion with patents in his name within Dominion. He took a leave from Dominion and went and ran the Detroit voting tabulation. So a Dominion executive or engineer was actually the guy in Detroit running all the twisting and turning of the dials and the rigging. Did you know that's not been in the public yet? That Detroit was being actually run by a Dominion engineer, went up and did it.
I mean, this is just incredible, and this is all going to be presented in, I imagine, more press conferences by legal teams, and then eventually it's going to get, I think, in front of the Supreme Court, quite frankly. I don't see how it doesn't.
If they don't act here, if they stand by and let this happen, I mean, look at what happened to then the country's lost, and they can't accept that. They look at what they did to Alito, and this is a goon move. Judge Alito, correctly said, look, if you really want to play Monopoly, read the top of the box. The Constitution is quite clear. State legislatures set the rules for election. Pennsylvania, before the election, changed the rules. The election officials did. They had no right to do that. The Constitution is crystal clear. Go look at Article 2. Alito clearly thought they shouldn't have done it, but said, if you're going to do it, I give you an order. You got to keep the ballots that come in after the date that the legislature said you could accept. You got to segregate them. They just failed to do it. That's giving a finger. They gave the finger to the Supreme Court of the United States. If the Supreme Court takes that, then there's never an ounce of election integrity in the country again. What they have signaled is you can be a goon, you can do what you want at the lower levels, and though the rules say this, they don't apply anymore, that the rules apply on the streets these days, where people can drive around doing popping wheelies on motorcycles in front of the FBI and just drive up on the sidewalk and stuff. The rules don't apply to them. If that continues and the rules don't apply to them here, that's it. We're never. I'm back living in communist China with the Chi-Coms. If that happens, at least the food's better.
Maybe. Depends where you're at. Patrick, could you do 5 more minutes with us? A bonus 5 minutes. Short break here. All right, we got a short break.
My honor.
Okay, we got a short break here, guys. We're going to come back 5 more bonus minutes with former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne. This has been really informative, folks. You know, Patrick, I kind of feel like one of those monkeys. In Space Odyssey, just hopping around the monolith right now. Of course, the monolith in the year 2020 is the election hack, the electronic elections that get hacked, probably since the outset of their institution. I've got 5 more minutes with former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne. This has been a very informative, intellectual hour of radio and broadcast television here. So, Patrick, I want to just throw 3 things out at you here for the final minutes, and then you can pick up whichever one you want to go with. And you did say you would talk COVID another day, so I hope you'll come back on the War Room sometime in the future. We can talk anything else. But Rachel Maddow, try not to laugh. In fact, we're going to do a little challenge here. Patrick, try not to laugh, all right? Try not to laugh. Here we go.
She's a friend of a friend. I'll let you know. So I've got to be. So I'll be.
That's fine. It's okay. Just try not to laugh at this, all right?
Okay.
Rachel Maddow says people who contest elections should go to jail.
Yeah. Well, how short is her memory? She's also from Stanford. She's from Stanford. We ran in similar circles in Stanford. We sort of I knew of her. I mean, it gets, I think I compared it with Alex earlier today. Like, if you ever deal with a guy who's got a toupee on and the toupee is sliding, and you don't want to be rude, so you hold his eyes and you try not to notice the toupee. But at some point, eventually, it reaches the point that you say, "Hey, come on, fella, no offense, don't want to hurt your feelings. It's all gotten ridiculous. You straighten your toupee out, and then we can start again." The position of people like that, it's just become such agitprop and propaganda and silly. Anyone with a room temperature IQ is seeing through it. I just want to tell them, stop. Just stop pretending, straighten your toupee, and we can start having a real conversation again. I just think, like you said, and that'll be my segue into the next question. And then hopefully sometime in the future, I can get you on to talk about, blaming the quote unquote deep state and SEC and what they would have done to Overstock. You can get into that later, but let's go down this since we kind of played it off here. So it was Rachel Maddow, though, and MSNBC and CNN and all these people that said foreign meddling, Russian influence, foreign influence in our elections. Oh, my gosh, for 4 years they did this. No proof. But now we have actual proof. Venezuela, China, all these countries, total foreign interference. And now they don't even say boo about it. Yeah, I have no idea. See anything? What? I don't see anything.
Yeah, no. I've never heard of this. But anybody who does should go to jail now. I mean, what?
Yeah, I know. This has gotten, it's the mainstream has always had this attitude towards, Fox, let alone you guys. Like, yeah, we're the mainstream. We decide if you're, we look down our nose at you. We decide if you're good enough to get in. They have so delegitimized themselves that when this is all over and we come through it, which we will, and even Fox has disgraced itself, I feel, and I've been on them 100 times or dozens of times. They've disgraced themselves. There has to be a whole new consensus about who is after the truth, and those people have every right to look down their nose at the other guys. Listen, I want to get two things in before we go. One is I have a website where I've been published for years. It's been voted the best investigative journalism and stuff on corruption in America in years past. It's called deepcapture.com. The other and there we recently infiltrated some of these groups, Antifa, and most importantly, the Sunrise Group. You want to go about a month ago, I posted something. We stole we infiltrated and got a bunch of the leadership documents from Sunrise. Sunrise is behind a lot of this.
15 seconds. 15 seconds, Patrick.
Gotcha. Maoist insurgency. Also, the violence, I believe, is going to start this Sunday. We have word that they're going to start bringing it this Sunday if Trump doesn't stand down. Everyone be prepared. Don't be the violent guys. We got to be better
Patrick Byrne, thank you so much. I hope you'll come back.
Guys, bye-bye.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have found it. This is the broadcast the evil, corrupt establishment doesn't want you to see or hear. But you have found it, and you are with us now. It's the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com, streaming live on band.video and 79days.news. We're about to be joined by Tom Pappert from National File. But before we do that, folks, I just did over an hour of broadcasts, transmissions here, and didn't plug once. So do me a favor and hop on over to InfoWarsStore.com and make up for me not doing my job. I didn't do my job in the first hour. So please make up for my lack of doing my job and making sure you know about InfoWarsStore.com. Hop on over to InfoWarsStore.com during this segment, during the next break. We have the Great Reset emergency sale happening right now, 50% off Alpha Power, 40% off DNA Force Plus, and we still have free shipping store-wide. So for big, heavy items like an air filter or a water filter or emergency food supplies, you can get free shipping. These are expensive to ship, but we have free shipping, so we'll cover those costs on those heavier items. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com. Don't forget about the T-shirts, the hats, the survival gear. all at InfoWarsStore.com, and check out all the great discounts as part of the Great Reset special emergency sale happening right now at InfoWarsStore.com. And when I open up the phone lines in the third hour, I'm sure many people will call in and say how great the supplements are. That's just how it goes. Now, Tom Pappert is with us here. So much is happening over at nationalfile.com. I'm basically understood that Patrick Howley has gone deep. He's gone dark underground. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows who he is. We're assuming he's okay. He's just doing his, sometimes he has to go into journalistic hiding, if you will, when he's breaking some of these news stories. Like the big one, whistleblowers claim Biden is implicated in Dominion voting scam connected to Serbia. This is just another one of your stories at nationalfile.com, just surrounding the entire election theft, as we're calling it, election hack, if you will. It's really incredible, Tom. I mean, the amount of evidence that continues to come forward, most of which is actually public information. You can go look at, they say, hey, here's our business partners. They're in China. Here's the patented technology we use from China. Here's the Venezuelan with Hugo Chavez instituting Dominion voting systems into America with the Clinton Foundation. But more is coming out. I mean, how do you even keep it all into the subject matter there? I mean, you got to have a whole section on nationalfile.com for the theft of 2020 election.
Owen, I mean, it's unbelievable. This is the news. And yes, Patrick is talking to some of these whistleblowers who he's speaking to are top, very high-level Democrats. Some of them are part of the globalist apparatus. So yes, he's working very hard getting more of these stories right now because they are absolutely unbelievably insane. And yet this is what has happened in our country. We now have whistleblowers coming out and saying that Joe Biden went to Serbia and brokered a deal to allow a group of essentially hackers design election software that would then be used throughout the world. The Clinton Foundation, a few years later, 2014-15, brags in one of its websites that Dominion voting systems is being used in countries that have had civil war, like Ukraine. In other words, so the globalist special interests can get the candidate that they want in these countries that are emerging from cataclysmic destruction. And now Dominion, as you said, Owen, has been brought to the United States. It's here in America, 28 states, using the same software that has essentially been pioneered by Hugo Chavez. It's been pioneered by the State Department under Biden and Obama and Hillary to engineer elections throughout Europe and the Middle East. This is a nightmare, and yet so much of it, I mean, even set aside our whistleblowers. The ties to George Soros are verifiable. The ties to the Clinton Foundation are verifiable. So verifiable, CNN, in its own fact check, accidentally admitted it. This is so over the top, and I'm very, very happy that now Sidney Powell will not have the confines of being part of the Trump campaign team and can spend the time necessary to explore this, because if we at National File are finding these bombshells day after day with Patrick Howley leading the way on this front, imagine what a team of lawyers led by Sidney Powell are uncovering, Owen.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the photos, there's the dates of the trips. It's all in this story, and it's just amazing. I mean, Biden, this guy was running around doing criminal activity just right in front of our face. I mean, it's really actually quite incredible. So it shouldn't shock us so much that he goes in front of the Council on Foreign Relations and said, yeah, I illegally bribed people in Ukraine to get my son millions of dollars, which I'm the big guy. I get 10% of. It shouldn't surprise us that Biden just flies to Serbia and starts doing deals like this. It shouldn't surprise us that Biden goes on national TV and says, yeah, my people have made the greatest voter fraud initiative ever in this country's history. Well, he wasn't kidding, was he, Tom?
No, I mean, that is precisely what he has. And he didn't even create it. I mean, let's not give this man this kind of agency. He is and has always been a puppet of the globalist special interests, the people that Hillary Clinton created and put around her, the people who kept her in office throughout the impeachment scandal. These are the people who still control the deep state. These are the people who still control the internal machinations of the government. There's a reason why Obama begged Hillary Clinton, so the story goes, to be his Secretary of State. There's a reason why she was giving campaign advice to Biden as recently as, a month ago, when she said, never concede. We will make you the winner, Joe, just never concede. And here we are. That's what's happening now, Owen.
Well, and I'm now seeing, too, that people that were working for Biden, there's almost a Sanders-esque thing happening right now to the Biden people. where people who put in a lot of groundwork for Biden, probably not corrupt people, just dumb libtards, who are expecting to be initiated into the administration or receive a role in the Biden campaign, Obama apparently has come in, mopped all of them up, and is just replacing them all with his people. And I don't think Biden knows what's going on. So basically Obama, who's been running this whole thing in the shadows out of D.C. for 4 years, is now coming back to the fore and running the Biden administration.
Yes, that's precisely right. I mean, this is the continuation of power that's been going on in this country for decades. That's what this represents to them. They think, okay, fine, we got the orange buffoon out. Now we can go back to the Bush, Clinton, Obama combine. We'll just put Biden at the front of it. They could have just had Jeb Bush do it. They could have had John Kasich. They could have been Evan McMullen. Biden has he's an evil man for going along with it, but he has no agency of all this. He's a puppet. He's a figurehead, and he's going to get extraordinarily rich in the process. It was so disgusting when the media anointed him the king-elect of the United States, and he brings out his son, who millions of Americans have seen this man in inappropriate sexual positions with people who have been identified as both family members and minors, and they bring him out, Owen, and they flaunt it in our face. They knew that this was going to come out. They didn't care. They seem to think it's a big joke, and they're rubbing our noses in it.
Yeah, not only did they have Hunter Biden come out pumping his fist, they had the first action of Joe Biden as the fake president-elect, molesting a child. They bring out the child for him to molest. There it is right there. Oh, it's just his family. Oh, no, folks, this is a satanic group of people sending you a message. And, well, we found out through, I believe it was Ashley Biden's diaries that you guys published that, Joe does have a certain asphyxiation with getting sexually involved with his children.
She said it, not us. I mean, it's in the Ashley Biden diary. She alleges that she had multiple sexually inappropriate or probably inappropriate showers with her father that over-sexualized her. And by the third grade, she identifies, she has been permanently screwed up mentally with men as a result, to the point where she's promiscuous. She blames it on her drug addiction. She blames it on her sex addiction. All available in National File. All the guy that the media, that the deep state is trying to crown the king of the United States.
Yeah, and just because there's probably new audience that tunes in every day that just thinks this is crazy or thinks I'm crazy, let me explain. I don't enjoy reporting this, okay? It's not fun. I'm sure that Tom Pappert and his team at National File doesn't enjoy having to publish this information either when they get it sent to them. But folks, no one else is going to do it, and this is the reality of the situation, okay? So I'm sorry to say, but yeah, I'm going to call it as I see it. Joe Biden is a child diddler. He does it on national TV. His daughter's written about it in her diaries, and now we have Hunter Biden inappropriately in lewd photos with his own family and underage children. Welcome back to the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com. Tom Pappert from National File is with me. I want to read a press release that the Trump legal team has just put out, and then I want to get Tom Pappert's response to it. So I'm just going to read this in its entirety, just released today from the Trump legal team. Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan legislatures to hold public hearings on 2020 election. Quote from Mayor Giuliani, "It's in everyone's interest to have a full vetting of election regularities and fraud." The Donald J. Trump for President campaign legal team today announced that the state legislators in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan will hold public hearings on the election beginning tomorrow and next week in an effort to provide confidence that all of the legal votes have been counted and the illegal votes have not been counted in the November 3rd election. The first hearing held by the Pennsylvania State Senate will be conducted tomorrow, Wednesday, November 25th in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where hundreds of thousands voted for Joe Biden. I'm just making a joke there. Where each participating senator will give a 5-minute opening statement followed by testimony from witnesses who have filed affidavits attesting to 2020 election fraud. Tomorrow's hearing will also feature a presentation from former New York City mayor and personal attorney to President Trump, Rudy Giuliani. On Monday, November 30th, the Arizona legislature will hold their own meeting, followed by the Michigan legislature holding their own hearing on Tuesday, December 1st. Details for both hearings to follow. "It is in everyone's interest to have a full vetting of election irregularities and fraud," said Mayor Giuliani. And the only way to do this is with public hearings complete with witnesses, videos, pictures, and other evidence of illegalities from the November 3rd election. Wow. We are pleased that the state legislators in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan will be convening hearings to examine the November 3rd presidential election, added Trump campaign senior legal advisor and personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis. There were serious irregularities. We have proof of fraud in a number of states, and it is important for all Americans to have faith in our electoral process. All we have wanted from the outset is to count every legal vote and discount every illegal vote. State legislatures are uniquely qualified and positioned to hold hearings on election irregularities and fraud before electors are chosen. As established in Article 2, Section 1.2 of the United States Constitution, state legislatures have the sole authority to select their representatives to the Electoral College, providing a critical safeguard against voter fraud and election manipulation. And yes, that is kind of the checkmate final say that you can have if you discover all of that to safeguard the elections, is to choose the electors, essentially, is really what it is, who are going to be filing the votes that count for the Electoral College. But Tom Pappert, your response to this press release from Trump's legal team.
Owen, this is the exact news that we've been waiting for. This is the perfect timing, I believe, right as everybody is very, very depressed following Trump's announcement yesterday. No, this is exactly what the Trump campaign has been working toward. This is how this is ultimately going to be done. The Republican Party under President Trump and led by President Trump at the state level has grown to an overwhelming majority. Virtually every single state has a Republican House or Republican Senate, and many have both, and they may or may not have a Republican governor. In Kansas, for example, we have a supermajority in the House and Senate, Democrat governor. Go figure. We're not very fortunate there. This is the case everywhere. These people owe their political careers. In some places, it's $10,000 a year. In some places, it's $120,000 a year to be a state legislator. They owe it all to President Donald Trump. Now is the time when these people at the state legislature level need to come together and realize that this is the single largest example of clear voter fraud, election fraud, whatever you want to call it. It's a disgusting disgrace to the American people and the American Republic. This is their opportunity to right the ship. These will be the heroes, the modern Continental Congress, who will come together and say, no, we will not accept the globalist rule. We will not accept Joe Biden as our anointed king because you say so. We will fight back, and we will send electors who will elect President Donald Trump. Oh, and this is where it's been going since the first night. This is what the Trump campaign wanted to do. Now we're at a critical juncture where the spotlight goes to people who are not used to it at the state level. And they're going to be receiving a lot of pressure from our political enemies, from communists, from Antifa, from everybody you can imagine, telling them to do the wrong thing. And it's very important that they know there are 75 million plus Trump voters out here who are going to be your security net. Do the right thing, state legislators. Your country will thank you eternally.
This is why I had people here in Austin and Travis County try to get me involved at the local level in case they did steal Texas from Trump, because most of the GOP out here at the time was run by never-Trumpers. Thank God we have Colonel Allen West at the head of it in Texas, but Travis County is still a disaster. It's all right. People are learning it. I began the momentum to expose the frauds at the top of the Travis County GOP. It's all coming down now. But this is what they told me, is why they wanted me to get involved, to have a first-person view of this, to say, hey, look, Owen, if they try to steal Texas, they're going to use these electors. You can be there and potentially stop it. And, of course, that's why they kicked me out, because they wanted to be able to do that if they had the opportunity. But I want to highlight something from the statement here that I think is so key. We did have Sidney Powell and Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani at that first press conference show some of their evidence. Most of it was just claims. They did have some evidence, obviously. A lot of it was just claims. But here's the quote from Rudy Giuliani in this press release. The only way to do this is with public hearings complete with witnesses. So I guess there's going to be witnesses at these next press events. Videos. So we're going to have the videos. By the way, Lynn Wood shared a video today of what is allegedly an entire, I guess, carton, if you will, or trash can, or whatever you want to call it, bin of ballots being shredded up. What the hell is that? Lynn Wood is on the warpath. So videos and then pictures and other evidence of illegalities from the November 3rd election. So it sounds like their next round of press events, if you will, or media events, they're going to bring forth a lot more evidence and even witnesses.
Well, that's absolutely this logical move. I mean, the benefit of doing these inside state houses throughout the country is it adds a certain amount of pretense. It's not quite as good as in the vaunted halls of the Supreme Court, but it's certainly a lot closer. I mean, Owen, we've already had Democrats back out of going to these type of things. In Pennsylvania, Dominion Voting Systems themselves had pledged to go to a House subcommittee hearing to investigate all of these claims, and they were going to put cold water on them. The whole thing was going to go away. Pennsylvania was going to not even be a question mark. It was going to be 100% good. Well, Dominion canceled at the very last minute, and the Pennsylvania House Republicans came out and said that it was completely unacceptable. So it is very fitting that now this is the House, or I'm sorry, this is the state Senate, but it's very fitting that then this should be the first state where now Dominion, which is on the run and in hiding in the state of Pennsylvania, now Rudy Giuliani can come out and show the evidence that shows the Democrats engaging in voter fraud, that shows the poll observers not being allowed to watch, that shows the votes being manipulated and recounted and counted 2 or 3 times and everything else they're alleging. This is going to be critical. And you said something, you identified it correctly, I think, Owen. This is a precedent. This is for us to watch and for us to make sure the American people see the truth about, because it's going to be damning and it's going to undermine everything the media has been saying.
We'll be right back. Tom Pappert is with us for another segment from National File. You know, I hope when Rudy Giuliani does these next upcoming press conferences, he doesn't just use the shoe polish dye on his sideburns. I hope he uses it on his whole head and he's just dripping black sweat, like coming death to the deep state. I'm probably the only one that wishes that, but I think it'd be funny and an illustration. One story at nationalfile.com, headline, Democrats intimidate 7 of Trump's thousands of attorneys to withdraw from the legal fight with death threats and harassment. And we also have this headline just breaking from the Daily Caller. Delaware computer repair shop behind Hunter Biden's laptop closes shop after receiving death threats. And then yesterday, you had the General Services Administration say, okay, we're preparing for a Biden campaign transition, to which President Trump released a statement saying the only reason we did this is because the leaders of the GSA are receiving death threats from Democrats. So, Tom, the biggest terror group in the United States of America, the Democrat Party, is at it again. I mean, this is just crazy. I don't really know how else to put this into perspective and then just tell people anyone who's fighting the Democrat corruption right now at any level is receiving death threats on the regular. I mean, this is just sick. Again, the laptop company, I guess the laptop Israel, obviously. And now Trump's lawyers, as Rudy Giuliani said, Sidney Powell said, hey, look, we get death threats every day. I mean, obviously they're afraid of something if they are threatening to kill these people. Obviously, I think that's why Trump, you're not seeing much of him. He's afraid he could get JFK treatment if he's in public so much. I mean, this is really sick.
It's something, Owen, that you would only normally see or hear about coming out of Iraq or Afghanistan, and it would be, of course, the pretense that the United States would need in order to send in impartial election observers with our Navy nearby to invade at a moment's notice with Marines on the ground. I mean, that's what America is turning into. We are seeing election officials, we are seeing prominent Republicans, prominent lawyers being threatened with death for the penalty for doing their job. It's completely unheard of. Now, I will say that it's a little bit of good news because the media, this story took days to compile because the media would have you believe that there are hundreds or thousands of Trump's lawyers that are abandoning him due to these death threats. In reality, it's only 7. But to track these 7 down and go parse through a million different media articles where they very specifically want us to believe it's more was difficult. But yes, Owen, death threats, one of them before resigning, she ultimately made the cowardly decision, I believe. She necessitated, it was a female lawyer in Pennsylvania, she necessitated U.S. Marshal protection. I guess you can't trust the FBI anymore, but that was to protect her life so she could work on the Trump campaign.
Yeah, and again, Giuliani made those statements saying we have to hire private protection for our legal team now because they get so many death threats. I mean, I I hate to go down the list, but I mean, the Clinton body count, folks, I mean, this is nothing new for the Democrat Party. People believe and know, rightfully, that you go up against this corrupt establishment or the Clintons or the Democrat Party, you may have a hit squad on you. That's no joke. It's not, again, as we go into these realms, I don't like talking about or reporting this stuff. That's just the reality of the situation. But hey, I mean, this is the loving, liberal, tolerant left, Tom. These aren't Nazis.
Well, you're right, Owen, that this is what they're up against. And I just want to add, I have a lot of respect for these state legislators across the country who are preparing right now to do the right thing, because these are people, some of them in the South, they make $10,000, $15,000 a year. Now, up north in Michigan and Pennsylvania, it's closer to $100,000 or north thereof. But these are people who are not used to being a media sensation, who are not used to being in the spotlight, and who are not used to receiving death threats. I don't know if they realize it yet, but they're about to be the nation's public enemy number one. Our side is still sleepy. Our side is trying to figure out who these people are. The Democrats know who they are. The Democrats are going to start sending their Antifa goons there immediately to hassle them like Maxine Waters ordered them to. So this is a very brave thing for the people who are standing strong to do so. And again, I hope they understand there are 75 to 80 million Americans out here who 97% of whom the official polls now say believe that you're doing the right thing. We are with you. We will help you. Do not cower beneath Joe Biden's threats.
You said it right there. The Republicans are wondering who they really are. The sleepy Republicans are wondering who they really are. And sadly, we're learning who they really are, and they're nobodies. They're nothing. They're not willing to fight. They're not willing to stand with Trump. They're not willing to fight for the Republic. I mean, just complete abandonment. So I guess they've made the decision that they just want to be complete nothings. And it's sad that that's the way this is going to go down. The good thing for Trump is, as you said as well, that he's got 70 million plus who will be fighting for him. In fact, there was a story that came out on the Gateway Pundit today that was, I think, only 3% of Trump voters believe he lost this election. So again, that's about at least 70 million people plus who are going to be fighting Trump with Trump, to stop this steal of the election. And I try not to look too much at Trump right now because I think it's so difficult and everything that's going on behind the scenes. And I think he's looking to us to fight for him to make his final decision. But ultimately, it is going to come down to him. And there's no doubt, though, he had two events today. He had two television events today, Tom. He had one where he came out and made literally probably a 60-second statement or less at the White House press room where he basically said, okay, we got a COVID vaccine. And we just hit 30,000 on the Dow Industrial Average. That's a record. And then left. Of course, the media jackals, hackling and jackling. He then pardoned the turkeys, as is tradition, corn and cob. They got their pardons. Big, beautiful bird. We had the biggest, beautiful birds from Iowa today into the White House. It was the Rose Garden. You saw they had the white feathers, the big gobblers. Okay, we pardoned corn and cob today. Very beautiful turkeys. But he did that. Basically, again, another 3-4 minute deal, and then, ran back inside. So he's not the same Trump that he's been for 3.5, 4+ years. There's no doubt about that. Is it a good sign? Is it a bad sign? I guess really only time will tell. But there's obviously something going on here. I mean, people are wondering, some people are saying, oh, Trump sold us out. I don't believe that, and I would never bet against Trump just as a betting man. I don't believe that's smart. But it is true. I mean, Trump has been a different person. He's been kind of the president in hiding. He's probably in fear for his life. I'm sure he's working on a lot of this election theft and deciding what to do behind the scenes. And I'm sure, quite frankly, he's, probably fatigued from his campaigns. I imagine he's over that now. But what do you make of that? The short appearances from President Trump today.
I think that they were trollish today. Of course, he did the typical turkey pardon 2 of them. You're not supposed to do that. I'm sure any other year we would have had 2 scoops, 2 turkeys. Oh, no. And then, of course, the 90-second appearance that started the live stream, and he was already talking. I thought that was typical. It was almost completely unannounced. Very typical of our president to leave the media just spinning in circles like this. But I think there's a logic to being the president in hiding right now, and that is we're approaching a critical juncture. These state legislators legislators literally have the ability to overturn all of this fraud in 4, 5, 6 states. I mean, it is an immense responsibility. I think President Trump is waiting to come out and make his personal opening statement, for himself to testify. I think he's waiting until this critical moment to inspire these state legislators. These people, we're talking about the Republican losers, Owen, these state legislators who dream of the ability to get to the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate someday. My God, this is their opportunity. If they do what the House and Senate leaders are not doing, if they stand with President Trump now, they can be the new Mitch McConnell. They can be the new Kevin McCarthy. This is the time where heroes are made. And I think President Trump is waiting until this critical moment approaches to come out and inspire these people to do the right thing. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong about this, then
we're in big
wrong
trouble
about a lot of things.
Tom,
right.
Final question for you before you depart. What do you make of Rachel Maddow saying people who contest elections should go to jail?
Rachel, let's get the bracelets on you, lady. Let's do it. Let's send you first.
Hey.
You first, Mad Cow.
That's right. For 4 years, she cried, Russia, Russia, Russia. So I guess Rachel is going to jail based on her own opinion. All right, Tom Papert from the National File. NationalFile.com. Tom, thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Always a pleasure.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to do a news blitz and then open up the phone lines for the entire third hour. All right, I'm going to do a news blitz here, and then the entire third hour dedicated to your phone calls. Kind of feels like Friday, but it's not. But Thanksgiving is upon us this Thursday, so that's nice. We've got some gobblers on the screen there. But we'll just say anything we've discussed today is fair game. Anything we've discussed today on the War Room is fair game to call in on. The number is 877-789-2539. 877-789-2539 to get into the InfoWars War Room today. Now, let's do a news blitz. It's just been announced there will be public hearings on the 2020 election in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan legislatures to hold public hearings, and that is all coming up within the next month. Rachel Maddow says people who contest elections should go to jail. So then, Mr. Maddow, go ahead and line yourself up. Delaware computer repair shop behind Hunter Biden's laptop closes after receiving death threats. Democrats intimidate 7 of Trump's thousands of attorneys to withdraw with death threats and harassment. Nice, isn't it? Those loving, tolerant libtards. Whistleblowers, Biden implicated in Dominion voting scam connected to Serbia. So Biden's helping other countries rig elections with Dominion. So nice of him. Jamie White has a story at Infowars.com with the documents. And, you know, let me just highlight this now, actually. Dominion voting systems patents reveal ties to communist China. Infowars.com headline by Jamie White. And again, the documents are there. This is public information. People that work at Dominion have made public statements, not even denying this. But here's the trap that we have to be careful not to fall into. And this is not to be insulting of people in media, because we're figuring out who in media is a freedom fighter, who's going to fight for the republic, and who's a grifter, and who just likes the fame and the fortune or likes the clicks or being popular. We're figuring out that real fast. Many of us already knew it, but now we're knowing it for sure. So, but let me explain the trap here that is an intellectual trap that we need not fall into. And I want to warn you about media people that fall into this trap. I'm not trying to demonize them. I just see it coming. There's going to be a mindset of people who don't fully understand the corruption that we're dealing with, how deep it runs, how committed these people are to it, and just how committed they are to their fraud and to their phonyism, and that really, at the end of the day, these are just disingenuous hypocrites and dirtbags. And so what I'm already starting to see come up, which means I think that this is going on in the heads of some of the people on Trump's team and a lot of people in the media, that, well, if we just reveal how Dominion voting systems or Smartmatic or Hammer and Scorecard or whatever it is, if we just reveal on record how there's Chinese involvement, Venezuelan involvement, actual evil dictatorships, actual communist, actual authoritarian regimes that are directly involved with our voting system, well, then surely that'll be the overturning factor. Surely that will do it, because they just complained about Russian collusion for 4 years. So these people really care about interference in our election. They complained about Russian collusion and Russian interference for 4 years. They gave themselves Pulitzer Prizes over it and other awards all about it. They really care. So, and America really cares. So if we can just present to them that this is China and Venezuela and other countries meddling, then surely it'll stick. Nope. Wrong measurement, horrible analysis. We cannot fall into that trap. Not at any level of the Russian hoax fraud, not at any level of the Russian interference in our election fraud, not at any level was there any genuineness to it. So not at the top with Obama or Biden or Schiff or Clapper or Comey or any of them. They're total criminals. They never cared about Russian interference. They knew the whole thing was a hoax. They know we're interfered with whoever runs Dominion every year. So don't assume that they ever cared about the integrity of our elections. Don't assume that they ever cared about foreign interference in our elections. They knew all about it. They helped facilitate it. These are disingenuous criminal scum. But just as it is at that level, it's the same at the bottom level, folks. It's the same at the bottom level. Even the millions of Americans that vote Democrat, they know there was never any Russian collusion. They know there was never any Russian interference. They know there was never any Russian meddling. They don't care about the integrity of our elections either. They never did. So anybody who's making that measurement and anybody who's under the assumption, and I'm already seeing it trend, that people will care, oh, liberal voters will care, oh, Democrat voters will care, oh, these people do care about the integrity of the election. Just look at how much they reported on Russian interference. They never cared. They were never serious. They were never honest. They were always phonies. They were always hypocrites. They were always criminals. At the top and all the way down to the lowest level Democrat, liberal, progressive voter, it was always a sham. They were always in on the sham. They were always lying to themselves. They knew it was BS. They're disingenuous scum, just like Clapper, Comey, Obama, and Biden. So that intellectual measurement will be a failing measurement if they assume that that will help win hearts and minds. You will win no hearts and minds from a Democrat voter. They're just as much of disingenuous scum as Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Now moving on. Pennsylvania governor congratulates crooked election workers that kicked out Trump campaign poll observers. He says Tom Wolf, the guy who makes you wear a mask in the shower, I'm not even kidding you, you have to wear a mask when you sleep at night, 24 hours a day mask from Tom Wolf, belongs in jail, in my opinion. He says, I want to thank the election officials who have administered a fair and free election during an incredibly challenging time in our Commonwealth and country's history. Our election workers have been under constant attack, and they have performed admirably and honorably. Oh, it doesn't matter that we just have the videos of Pam Bondi and Corey Lewandowski and poll workers trying to get in, and they get thrown out and rejected. It doesn't matter they had to try to look through with binoculars at the poll watchers because they couldn't get in. It doesn't matter that they closed up the doors, boarded up the windows. No, that's performing admirably and honorably. Of course, to a communist like Tom Wolf. Of course, to a criminal like Tom Wolf. Tom Wolf has probably never been elected himself. He probably got in illegally with these voting machines. So yeah, you cheat, you lie, you steal, and the Pennsylvania governor, Tom Wolf, who makes you wear a mask to sleep at night, makes you wear a mask in the shower, will say, great work. From Gateway Pundit, breaking ballot count upload error in Arizona. Over 6,000 false Biden votes discovered. Well, I'm sure that's it. Yeah, sure it's just 6,000 here, 7,000 there, 20,000 over there, another 30,000 over there. Oh, magically Biden wins. Woo! Nothing to see here. New York Police Department union tells New York subway riders, you're on your own due to anti-cop policies. It's from the National File. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio has made no secret of his disdain not only for law and order, but the New York Police Department and law enforcement in general. This snub of New York City's finest is resulting in city residents being hunted by criminals in the New York subway system. And, you know, this is the joke of it. Shouldn't be the average subway riders who suffer because of these policies. The message shouldn't be to subway riders, you're on your own. The message should be to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, you're on your own. Guess what? They'd never come out again. They'd never come out again. The only reason why Black Lives Matter and Antifa goes out in the streets and engage in criminal activity is because they know that the police have been told to stand down and protect them. But let me tell you, if they found out the police weren't going to protect them anymore, you wouldn't see BLM or Antifa ever again. So apparently in New Mexico, I'm just getting this story now. The crew is printing it. The New Mexico governor has just shut down grocery stores for 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. A dozen grocery stores around the state have been forced to close for 2 weeks because of a public health order issued by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham at a time when the state's residents are suffering from record high unemployment and food insecurity. The order requires businesses with 4 or more rapid responses of COVID-19 cases reported within a 14-day period to close for 2 weeks. Oh, my gosh. If this goes nationwide, it's over, folks. Game over. Every store will be closed forever. Especially the way they test everyone, amplify the tests, have false positive tests. Of course, you're going to have a store that has 4 people that come in that have COVID over a 2-week period. Everyone's got COVID. Or everyone could test positive for COVID. The test results are fake. This is unbelievable, man. They're going for broke. And, you know, I said this the other day, but my biggest fear is in the arrogance right now of Bill Gates, of Fauci, of Cuomo, of de Blasio, of Newsom, of Whitmer, of Biden. How can they be so confident when they've been caught by billions of people worldwide in total criminal behavior? Total criminal activity, total treason, total crimes against humanity, total crimes against the international community. I mean, they're all dead to rights legally. How are they so bold? How are they so confident? How are they so arrogant? If I didn't know any better, I'd think that they had something up their sleeve, and something real bad, folks. I mean, real bad. And of course, we know that they've been preparing for that. This is just wild. So now I don't know who Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is. I'd bet my entire reproductive system it's a Democrat. And I mean, I just said it on air. I hope I don't lose it all right here. That'd be the last you hear from me, folks. I'm going to do the Democrat way. I'm going to tie an anvil to my ankle, and I'm going to hop off a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Shutting down grocery stores for COVID now. Even though there's no spread. Just fake cases. And then they say, oh, hospitals are overwhelmed. No footage. No evidence. Just claims. And you know, I'm sorry to pontificate on this, but I have a friend from college who is a local news reporter in California. And God bless her heart, she's a nice girl, but not very bright. Good-looking girl. And I've noticed that this is what they seem to do here in major cities, and then they just all go along with it, is local news crews hire good-looking young female reporters who aren't very bright, but like to be on camera and are good-looking, can't really think, but can read. And so they literally just are told, hey, report this about COVID. Hey, report this about the deaths. And they just put it out nonstop all day long with their propaganda. And it's just like, there's no thought, there's no value. It's just, oh, read whatever I'm told to read. And so the next thing you'll see is your local news reporter is going to tell you, we're closing your grocery stores for COVID. Good luck. Good luck. We just got 10,000 new COVID cases. No, you didn't. You had people that had to get tested to go to work who had false positives and amplified tests. It's all fake. It's all totally made up. And now they're going to shut down the economy again, close your grocery stores, close the schools, close churches. It's all coming back around. I was so shell-shocked by that last news story that they're closing grocery stores in New Mexico for COVID, a fake pandemic, fake deadly virus. I couldn't even really complete my news blitz, and I'm just stunned. But as the theme of yesterday's show goes, Americans are just fighting mad, man. I mean, you don't go into a lion's den and try to shave the hair off the lion. You don't get into a pack of lions, or what are they called when, because the male lion has a harem. So you don't go to find the male lion surrounded by his harem and chop his balls off. He's going to eat you. After he tortures you and plays with you a little bit for fun, then he'll eat you and feed you to his children. So you want to chop the testicles off a lion with a harem of 12 lionesses? You want to tell Americans they're not free and they can't go to church and they can't go to school and they can't go to a ball game and they can't go to a concert and they can't go to a grocery store? And then you're going to tell them they have to take a vaccine to get back to normal activity? Yeah, again, you're going to go try to chop the testicles off a lion in the African plains? Good luck. Good luck. But I guess they figure they have the lion so sedated and domesticated and dumbed down and distracted that they can actually pull it off. Because that's what it is. Honestly, that's what it is. Humans, we are domesticated. We are slaves. And 2020 has been the year to prove it. And so we can either decide to fight like lions and to fight like wild animals, or continue to be domesticated slaves built into a prison of lies and control with COVID as the latest excuse. So are we domesticated animals like sheep, like cattle? Or are we alive? Are we wild humans? Are we free? The battle is on, ladies and gentlemen, and the globalists and the deep state are going for broke, and they think you're a domesticated house cat that lives in a cage and not a lion that roars and roams freely in the grasslands. So what are we, folks? Are we domesticated house pets of the New World Order? Or are we kings of the jungle? I don't know about you, but my fate is sealed. Good God. Oh, God. Okay. You guys are going to do me like that, huh? Yeah, well, that's it. Either you're that, a lion, or you're whatever the hell that is. A furry in a rickshaw. A furry pretending to be a horse. I don't want to be domesticated. I don't want to be a New World Order house pet. I don't want to be branded like cattle. I want to live free. So do hundreds of millions of Americans and billions of humans worldwide, and we just have to first accept we've been domesticated, accept we've been enslaved, recognize it, reject it, rebuke it, fight it, and free ourselves from it. Let me just go out to your phone calls now. I'll do a news blitz later on in the last segment, but I got to get to these callers you guys have now been holding. I promised I would. So we start with Paul in Pennsylvania. Paul, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
You there? Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I was at the PA here, and it's getting pretty ridiculous with their lockdowns and stuff, and I'm doing it all again. But anyway, I was thinking it was we've been treating these people like they're, being nice all the time, and I don't think that's the way to go. Like you talk about being a lion, I look at the world that we're around, that's around us, all these people that want to chime on everybody else, or like, rabid pit bulls. And I've raised pit bulls with friends of mine, and if you ever showed them fear, they'd bite you. You know what I mean? But if you showed them confidence, they wouldn't mess with you. You know what I mean? And I think it's the same situation, and it's just like, what do we do now? You know what I mean? If Trump concedes, he's out of there. What are we going to do? I listen.
I've thought about that too. I mean, it's almost like we should be sitting here. I mean, I can cover news all day long, and that's why people tune in. They want to be informed. But at some point, we have to just decide, like, look, we can be informed as long as we want, but at what point do we decide we start making contingency plans in case Trump does concede? I mean, what do those plans look like?
That's exactly what I think about.
Because here's the thing, I'm a believer in God's plan. So but there's a comfort in that, but there's kind of almost a laziness in that where I'm not planning for that because I believe God will deliver, but I understand that the globalists are planning for that. So they have all their contingency plans. I just rely on God.
Right. Well, that's what my mom used to tell me before she passed. But just as much as there's a God out there, there's a Satan out there, and he's pretty powerful. So you can't keep treating these liberals and whatnot like with kid gloves. You got to handle them. I mean, they're evil.
No, I agree, and they're about to. I mean, they're about to push this. Look, they've broken the social contract. They've broken the non-aggression principles. And, I forget where it was. I was tuned into, and again, folks, I'm just a media hound. It kind of comes with the territory. It's how I stay informed, too, and just keep up with the general public. Every talk radio show is turning into sounding like InfoWars. Every caller into the talk radio shows are so pissed off. It's unlike anything you've ever heard. And, I mean, but that's the thing is we understand that it's kind of, you know what it was? It was actually from Doogie Howser. That's what it was. It wasn't from media. It was the last thing we want to do is fight. That's the last thing we want to do. We want to exhaust every other avenue to try to work out an issue. We want to exhaust every other possible thing to do before we get to a fight. That's our last measure. And so that's where we're at. We're exhausting every other thing. We don't want to fight with you people. We don't want a civil war. We don't want to see this. We don't want to unleash the Kraken that could have been unleashed in Richmond, Virginia this year. We don't want to do that. We don't want a fight. We don't want a bloodbath. We don't want a war. But we're exhausting every other avenue, and they keep pushing us to a certain point. We're not going to be slaves to a new world order. We're not going to relieve ourselves of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And we're not going to lay down our sovereign status as a nation state and free citizens of a republic. It's not going to happen. Paul, thank you for the call. Matt in Illinois, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
Hey, Owen. So first of all, I want to say being able to tune into InfoWars, Alex Jones, or the War Room It's just really refreshing to get the truth and just to hear you guys. So I want to say thank you very much for that. Also, wanted to say I'm usually a pretty optimistic person, but lately I've been pretty pessimistic. As far as the left goes, they seem like they have everything so calculated. It's just like they know their move. They got AI. They get a look at all of our phones. I mean, it's almost impossible to defeat these guys because they have everything so damn calculated.
Yeah, but let me explain this because that's not true. It's actually extremely easy to defeat these people. It's, again, just a matter of opening that Pandora's box. But here's the yin and yang, Matt. Yeah, I completely understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling, seeing everything develop the way it's developed. But the real pessimism is not that they're getting away with it, because they're not. They've been caught, and the world is awake to their crimes. The pessimism is the realization that with every day that people don't get locked up, with every day that goes by and there's no justice, that's another day of being closer to having to go to a place that we don't want to go to, having to fight Goliath that we don't want to fight. That's really what the pessimism is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, survey data from a March Pew poll indicates that liberals disproportionately suffer from mental illness. Nearly half of self-identifying liberals between the ages of 18 and 29 reported telling a doctor or healthcare provider that they have a mental health condition. Folks, that's only self-reporting. Half of them self-report. Half of them admit they're mental. So, liberalism is a mental disorder. And we now have multiple studies confirming it. And they even admit it. But of course, how else could you wrap your mind around their politics or double standards or double think or hypocrisy or just blatant, flat out pathological lying without understanding that liberalism, modern day liberalism as it is a mental disorder. Not classical liberalism, actually free of freedom of man that's now been hijacked and stolen. No. Modern day liberalism is tyranny. Modern day liberalism is authoritarianism. Modern day liberalism is mental retardation. I'm going to stop right now before I start pontificating too much here and go back to your phone calls. Dylan in North Carolina. Dylan, you are on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead. It's all right, Dylan. We'll get you potted up here. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
All right, perfect. Sorry if there's some issue there. I'll try to go quick because I know we're busy. Anyways, you remind me of one article. This is from 5 years ago. I'll mention this real quick before going into what I was planning on. But there were actually studies done where disabling parts of the brain with magnets can weaken faith in God and change attitudes to immigrants, study finds. So liberals are literally brain damaged. Anyways, back to what I wanted to bring up. I just thought that was funny and I'd share that. So here's the evidence.com is a great crowdsourced website where it's recording all sorts of different crowdsourced things of voter fraud. You can sort it by state or nationwide. There are sources and everything, so that's pretty great. And then last but not least, you might remember last week there were some stories about skinny Joey Merlino where he might flip on Biden. It was, of course, quickly debunked by everyone.
That was the former. Hold on, say that again. That was the former Philadelphia mafia boss, right?
Yeah, exactly. The former Philadelphia mafia boss, skinny Joey Merlino. So that was, of course, quickly debunked. But yesterday, actually, the Department of Justice announced that 15 members and associates of the Philadelphia mafia were indicted on federal racketeering and related charges. So they haven't said exactly what that was all about. But I'm curious if that will end up playing into what we had heard last week, which was, of course, quickly debunked. But all of the people arrested did not include the actual skinny Joey Merlino. So it's kind of interesting.
Very interesting indeed. And what was that crowdsource site that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's literally hereistheevidence.com. So when someone says, like, where is the evidence? You can just say hereistheevidence.com. And just as of right now, there are over 700 entries. I have seen a few in the unverified section where people were putting in spam, like Trump has a small you-know-what. But besides that, there are a ton of great verified sources, and you can go through the unverified ones and see a lot of them are legit as well. You can also sort it by significance. So some of them are a level 4 or a 4 with an exclamation mark, which are the most significant, where just reading off the top here, 40,000 mail-in ballots were cast in the name of deceased voters in Pennsylvania. 18,000 mail-in ballots didn't have a mail date, only a return date after November 3rd in Pennsylvania. All of these have sources. A lot of them are things you've already reported, but I just thought it'd be a great source for the general public.
No, this is so great. This is amazing. We've got the site pulled up. Thank you for the call, Dylan. Folks, this is so great because here's the thing. Every day, I can't tell you how many calls, emails, and I'm not poo-pooing it. It's just everyone has the greatest idea, and they just think that somehow InfoWars can just manage it and do everything. And I've said this, I don't know how many times you're on air. Folks, you do have great ideas. We don't even have the crew right now to do the nightly shows like we've been doing for the last 2 months for the election coverage. The crew's burn out, man. So we're already maxed out, folks. This is like coming to a guy for a loan, for $20 million, and he's broke. So somebody came up with this idea to make the website, here's the evidence.com. I've literally had people ask me to do the same thing. I've just said, look, we're maxed out, man. I don't know what you want us to do. People do it themselves. They create it. They become the source. They become the fighters. They become the heroes. So whoever did this, great site. Here's the evidence.com. We'll plug it. We'll promote it. Absolutely. That's how it's done. People have to take action, folks. It's the same thing. You can't rely on Trump to do everything. You can't rely on InfoWars to do everything. Sometimes you got to rely on yourself. And quite frankly, 100% of the time you have to rely on yourself. Let's go to Kyle in Nebraska. Kyle, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
Owen, it's Kyle. I talked to you a few weeks ago about, I think you termed it the Freaky Lab. Remember that?
The Freaky Lab?
Yeah, it was something about, I was talking about how they wanted a psych test and the urine test and all that just to work at a lab.
Oh, right. Okay.
If you kind of remember. But anyway, basically I want to call out the wannabe survivalists out there. If you call yourself a survivalist and you don't have an Alexa Pure gravity-fed water filter, you cannot call yourself a survivalist. I'm just going to say that. It helped me tremendously. I mean, I was going into Walmart or different stores, plugging around 1-gallon jugs of that reverse osmosis crap. No minerals in there, no nothing. I get this Alexa Pure, 100% changed my life. In the last, I don't know how many months I've had it, 5, 6. So huge plug on that. I mean, it's just, there's nothing like it out there, man. And I just want to say that first. Second, have you seen the schizophrenia commercial on TV yet?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so there's a commercial that just started playing recently. I'm sure people will comment on it. And it's like, do you have schizophrenia? And it's like pushing pharma drugs. And it's like, when in the history of this country have they pushed a schizophrenia drug on TV? I think it's, when you're like watching Tucker or something, and it's playing during those times. And it's just so crazy. Like, you look at what percentage of the population is schizophrenic, right? Why would you go and push that? Just think of that.
Well, it's all Big Pharma. I mean, Big Pharma runs television news, so they got to get their ads out there.
Exactly. And then third thing.
Okay, I have seen this ad. I don't listen to TV ads. In fact, I don't listen to the TV hardly at all. I just have the TVs on in my work living room. I didn't even know this was a schizophrenia ad. This ad runs pretty much 24/7.
Boom.
Yeah, on all the news networks.
And just look at it. What do you think they're doing? It's classic projection, like we talked about last time I called you. It's nothing but projection. They can't stop because they know if they do, it's over for them. And so that was my third thing. We have to start getting organized with our local sheriff's department, our local police department. We got to start figuring out who the patriots are and who they're not.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's a tough one with the police, man. That's a tough one. I mean,
it is.
I'll just leave it at that. I mean, the sheriff's office, maybe. You got a chance there. But police departments, man, they're just run by dirty Democrats. By the way, we found out who runs Here's the Evidence.com. It's attorney Robert Barnes. Robert Barnes, Here's the Evidence.com. All right, I want to go right back to the phone lines here. But before I do, ladies and gentlemen, remember, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we're able to stay on air. That's how we're able to get the great guests, be and organize the large events, coordinate with other people, launch other websites, launch other projects. It's all thanks to your support at InfoWarsStore.com. We do have a new special right now at InfoWarsStore.com. The Great Reset Emergency Sale. Prepare for the permanent lockdown now. And I would say the big thing to prepare for the lockdown is now they're saying in New Mexico they're closing grocery stores. So I wonder if that's not coming to a town near you. So prepare for the permanent lockdown by getting emergency food supplies right now at InfoWarsStore.com. And with the free shipping as part of this sale, heavier items, expensive to ship, we're going to cover those shipping costs. So I would suggest, if you don't have emergency food yet, you know, we had the caller call in, if you don't have the water filters from InfoWarsStore.com yet, what are you doing? Well, if you don't have emergency food right now from InfoWarsStore.com, what are you doing? And take advantage of free shipping right now for these heavy, expensive to ship items. We're going to cover that cost. Plus, they're already at the best nexus point of price and quality that you're going to find. It's the emergency food supplies at InfoWarsStore.com. So you see it, closing grocery stores because of COVID. Don't be caught without food, folks. Get to InfoWarsStore.com, take advantage of free shipping, and get yourself emergency food supplies today at InfoWarsStore.com. Back out to the phone lines we go. David in New York, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
Good evening, Owen.
Good evening.
Hey, first a quick plug. I had a severe leg injury, and the Bodies is helping my arthritis. And the DNA Force, I had nerve tinglings and all that. I bought the bottle of DNA Force. The nerves are settling. I haven't had that. That's a great product, so I'm going to keep buying that. To my point, Owen, as you said about the food shortage, that's going to tie in with my point I got here. We got to get really serious, and I know you guys are, so I'm just saying the obvious. But I think Trump is going to win through the Supreme Court. I really believe that. But that's not going to solve all the problems. What he needs to do in the right timing, and I didn't know, I talked to your screen, I don't know the legality of this, but I think he needs to supersede the communications, make a great chess move, take the rook and the queen, and go right down the board, and take over the communication line, at least for a short time, get his point out so those networks, Fox News and co., can't shut him up, dumb him down, and say, we're going to bring our experts in and interpret. No. He needs to get his message out, Owen. And he's got to get really serious because I think he's going to win, but this thing has gone so far with the food and the COVID that they got us surrounded, 360, like Alex says, asymmetrical, all surrounded with all this psyop. We got to get radical, guys. We got to take this on.
Well, and I understand the approach from Trump, and this plays into the art of the deal or the art of war, where and just the dramatics of victory to say, wait until you have the final shot, hold the ball till the final shot, and then get the shot you want, and then hope you make the shot. Of course, that's the risk is, how do you know what the timing is, and how do you know you're going to make the shot? But I think that's Trump's measurement. He's holding the ball to take the final buzzer beater shot, and it's his shot, and he thinks he's going to guaranteed make it. And what is that going to look like?
I'm a little older. I remember the Globetrotters. He's going to do a hook shot from 50 feet, and it's going to go right through the hoop. And I think they know that, but they got to set the dynamics up so that there isn't a great resistance to it. He comes out with the proof. Bam, go to the Supreme Court. Boom, hit it. 5-4 Supreme Court for the president. And in that midst of that, he's got to get the communication out so the populace doesn't get lied to by the lying media. Get the truth out simultaneously.
You know, and that's an issue. That's a whole nother battle in and of itself, because it doesn't matter. Trump can come forward with every bit of evidence. I mean, I'm not trying to be graphic. You could literally have Joe Biden, you know, diddling kids naked in a bed, and we'll just leave it at that. And the left still wouldn't buy it. So my point is that he can come out and release all of it. The left still isn't going to buy it. The media is still not going to report it. So it's almost like we just have to ignore that and just plow forward and just say, justice be done, may the heavens fall, and then see how they respond to the truth, which will be the normal response. a total outlash of violence and rioting and death and murder in the streets. That's what the Democrats do. They're a terrorist hate group. But that's a whole nother thing, because it's like Trump can't sit here and measure, in my opinion, because I can't do it either. I can't sit here and measure, oh, how am I going to convince a liberal of this? How am I going to convince a Democrat of this? They're gone, folks. They have no intellectual integrity. They have no logic. They have no reasoning, and they've decided to be that way. So Trump can't really approach it like that either, but he kind of does. He wants everyone to be on the same team. He wants to be the great unifier. The problem is the media and the people that believe what they hear on CNN and MSNBC are so far gone. If you reach out to try to grab them and pull them back onto the ship, you're just going to fall in and sink and drown with them. David, thanks for the call. Let's go to Tanya in Colorado. Tanya, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
Hey, Owen. Got you guys in my prayers. Love you guys. I'm thinking, I agree with David. I think Trump should take over the, emergency broadcast system and just let people know what's going on. Because no matter what, he's going to, if we let Biden and Kamala get in there, we're in so much trouble immediately that why not try everything you can while he still has power? And, heck, isn't it the Ukraine that wants him extradited to their country? Send him on over.
Yeah, I don't know if Ukraine's made any statements about wanting him extradited, but Joe Biden is wanted for crimes. He's considered a Class A felon, essentially, is the ruling. He's a Class A felon in Ukraine. So, yeah, we could expedite Biden for hearings, and he would be arrested.
Right, okay. And then you got, he's a known communist agent of China. And so how is he running for president? He's guilty of treason.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is we don't have, in my opinion, a Department of Justice, an FBI, or a CIA that wants to do their job.
No, unfortunately. We've been taken over, and we've been taken over by commies. So anybody that has any kind of patriotic heart left for this country needs to get ready to fight. My ancestry came from Greece, kind of near the Battle of Thermopylae, and everything in my being is just getting so sick and tired of this. I am ready to go. If Trump just tells all of us, okay, I need your help, if he's surrounded, he just needs to send out the signal to us that he's surrounded. I think there's a lot of Americans that are going to fight for this country. This is the best country on earth, and we are not just going to put up with this. And he needs to do everything he can to stop this from happening. Kamala's not even a U.S. citizen. What the heck is she even running for office for? And he needs to be having fireside chats, getting this information out there, and stop this stupid pandemic hoax. I'm so sick of it. I couldn't even go to my local store. I'm in Colorado, and, of course, our stupid tyrannical governor is locking things down again, and suddenly I get turned away at the door and can't come in without a mask on when I've been coming in for months without a mask on. And so I'm so over all this big hoax, having all of our rights taken away. And, what are we going to do? Just roll over to this? I mean, I guess there's a bunch of slaves out there that are willing to wear these stupid masks. I'm not willing to put up with it. I'm going to go down fighting. And I know there's a lot of other Americans that feel the same way I do. And we're not going to put up with this.
Amen, Tanya. Couldn't have said it better myself. And this energy that you just brought to the show is going viral right now. It's on Rush Limbaugh. It's on Michael Savage. It's on Dan Bongino. It's on C-SPAN when callers call in. It's on Glenn Beck. I mean, it's everywhere now, folks. It's infectious. It's Americans. Many of us are still Americans. Many of us are still Americans. I'll just leave it at that. Some of us are commie scum, but millions of us are still Americans. Come here in the final segment today with God Bless America playing to wish you, your friends, your family, your loved ones a happy Thanksgiving from all the InfoWars crew. Alex will be live tomorrow The War Room is going to be on rebroadcast, and then, of course, Thursday will be rebroadcast, and then Friday we will be live all day, including the Veterans Call-In Show. But I wanted to say God bless you and God bless America and happy Thanksgiving from the InfoWars crew here. Speaking of, here in Austin, we had an emergency alert sent to our texts here in Austin that said, COVID is rising. You're not allowed to have Thanksgiving now. And then our corrupt Mayor Adler just confirmed this with a tweet saying, do not gather with people you do not live with this Thanksgiving, and wear your mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands. Oh, yeah, Mayor Adler? Here's an idea. Why don't you go yourself? Just an idea. Of course, you probably do that every night in your W hotel room anyway, but that's none of my business. Now, think about how disingenuous, though, the left is. My body, my choice. Except if you want to wear a mask, except if you want to get a vaccine. If you want to kill your kid, which isn't even your body, it's a totally separate body biologically, that's okay. But nope, you have to wear a mask. You have to take a vaccine. And by the way, I am having a massive gathering, huge gathering for Thanksgiving. It's going to be so huge. But because I'm a good communist and I listen to communist dictates from Mayor Adler, I've decided I'm canceling Thanksgiving and instead having a BLM rally. I'm going to have a Black Lives Matter rally with hundreds of my friends, and turkey will be served. See, that's how you get around that. So you can't have a gathering for Thanksgiving with your family, but you can go out and riot with Black Lives Matter. That's okay. Again, the disingenuous of the left. Here's another example. They run the COVID cases and the numbers. Oh, it's the worst thing ever. Look at all the deaths. Look at all the people. Look at all the cases. Of course, it's all just an institution of testing and then increasing the numbers. It's all fraudulent. But then they don't report on this because they are paid for by Big Pharma. OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma pleads guilty in criminal case. Ladies and gentlemen, more people die from prescription drugs every year than heroin, cocaine, meth combined. More people will die from a drug overdose in 2020 than from COVID. Nobody reports on that. Now, they say you have control over COVID. You have no control over COVID. You do have control over pharmaceutical drugs killing you, but they don't report on that. The television news is your enemy, ladies and gentlemen. And the liberal left is the most hypocritical, disingenuous scum on the face of the earth. Let me just pile drive through some of this news and we'll go back to your calls. De Blasio setting up COVID checkpoints to find New York City travelers violating Thanksgiving quarantine. Disgusting. Bill de Blasio is a traitor, a commie, belongs in jail. The airline industry begins to plan for COVID-19 vaccination passports. That's right. Forced vaccines to travel. Told you that was coming. John Carl's one of the biggest douchebags you've ever heard of in media from ABC News. After lecturing Trump supporters on masks, John Carl caught taking off his masks in press briefing room when the cameras are off, except they weren't off, John Carl, you ginormous douche, you piece of crap. Right Side Broadcasting has just had their video of the March for Trump in D.C. get banned for violating community guidelines. It only had over 2.5 million views. Just, people marching for Trump. That's considered a violation of the COVID policy because, you can't show millions of people gathering and then none of them getting sick during the fake pandemic. You can't have that. Synagogue that held maskless wedding fined $15,000 by New York authorities. You know what they can do with that $15,000, folks. YouTube suspends pro-Trump news network OAN and completely demonetizes channel over COVID-19 cure video. So sad to see that One American News Net is now getting the censorship demonetization treatment. But shout out to OAN. They run Cloud TV, which you can subscribe to. Cloud TV not only streams OAN, but it also streams InfoWars 24/7. Cloud TV, KLOWD. It's an app for Roku or other things, and they do air One American News Network and InfoWars. So that's another way to find us. By the way, the Biden administration that's being set up, full of corrupt individuals. State Department emails reveal that after joining Burisma's board, Hunter Biden requested meetings with then Deputy Secretary of State under Obama, Antony Blinken, who is now Joe Biden's pick for Secretary of State. So again, like I said, all the people who actually just were probably grassroots, nice people who wanted to support Biden are all being replaced by Obama people now. Every single one of them. Okay, back to the phone calls. Eli in Texas. You know, this is Eli who wants to talk about the Alex Jones show today. I got to say, the Alex Jones show today was one of the best Alex Jones shows of the year. It is must listen. He was really on his game today. Eli wants to talk about that. Eli, go ahead.
Hey, Owen, big fan. Not real long-time listener, more of a recent listener. I've been a long-time watcher of Steven Crowder, Charlie Kirk, Tim Pool. If you guys have got the chance, I'm going to kind of plug Charlie's Turning Point USA. If you can, go watch him. He's on YouTube. He's been streaming this every single day on the election fraud. He's been on top of it.
Yeah, do you know I met Charlie Kirk once, Eli?
Yeah, he was talking about that, actually.
Really?
One of his previous, yeah.
Really?
I think it was about 5 days ago when everything was kind of, condensing and coalescing. There's like hours of footage, though. I don't want to have to make you go, try and look out for the specific point he mentioned it.
I'm honestly, Eli, I'm being facetious. I think you have a lot to learn about conservative media, but I'll just leave it at that.
That's a fair point. But I particularly wanted to talk to you about how Alex was feeling. He looked, he was kind of drained, and he felt like he was, from my perspective, it felt like he was kind of like, I don't know, just kind of done, so to speak, but not really done, like he's just kind of out of it and he's kind of weighed down by everything. And I just wanted to say to Alex, like, do not give up, man. You guys have been leading the charge on everything. I have not tuned into anyone more often in the past few months than I have tuned into you guys.
Well, you found the tip of the spear. There's a reason why this is the most banned news network in the world, Eli.
That is true, sir. That is true. I actually wanted to, it was one of the few things I wanted to say was just, kind of give a little bit of word of encouragement to Alex, but particularly to all the listeners out there, do not let these people win. Do not let these people demoralize you. Do not let these people bring you down. You are the American people. We are America. The media does not determine who the president is. These people do not determine who your elected officials are. You do. This is our power as the United States of America.
Eli, how old are you?
I'm 24, sir.
I can tell you're a young guy. We haven't had, I'll be honest, when I was 24, in fact, that was just when I decided to even get into news. I was in sports media, but we are having new generations of patriotic Americans that are fighters for liberty and diehards for liberty. And you're part of that generation. And the harder you fight and the louder you are, the more you sow those seeds of liberty for future generations, Eli. So glad to hear from you today. I hope I hear from you again. Good to talk to you, Eli. I got to take one more call before the end of the broadcast today. James in Pennsylvania. James, you're on the InfoWars War Room. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Owen. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everyone out there.
Or BLM rally, whatever you want to call it, to have it.
And you know what? It don't matter. We got people out there celebrating. Anyway, this classic liberal who's never voted in his life left a CEO position to expose this voter fraud. Could you imagine what 70 million pissed off Americans will do? I'm looking at this 2-month over here crying, 2-month-old baby crying. That's my skin in the game.
Well, imagine this, though, James. Think about this, because I was actually doing this last night in my head. Why is the left able to get Antifa and BLM out in the street so easily? Folks, these are people that feel they have nothing, that society gives them nothing. They have no problem destroying society because they get nothing from it. So once you have American patriots and Trump supporters in that same mindset, that same notion that everything's been taken away from them, they have nothing to lose, it's going to look nothing like Antifa or BLM, but it's going to look like 1776.
The Liberty Tree needs a good watering, my friend, and Pennsylvanians should probably start at Wolf's house. This guy is a monster. He is going to shut down the supermarkets just like they did in New Mexico. They are going to withhold food from you. They are going to tell you all kinds of crazy things. Do not follow it. I hope you got the store food. I'm only shopping at InfoWarsStore.com for all my Christmas gifts. I already got my wife air purifier.
Attaboy, James. Hey, thank you for calling, James. That does it for this InfoWars War Room. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. God bless the United States of America, and you stay classy, Info Warriors.
The greatest battle in the history of humanity is happening right now. Don't sit on the sidelines. Take action now. The fight starts at Infowars.com.
Almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
The other animals, they notice this. And they start to move in. The jackals, hyenas, they're barking at him, laughing at him. They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. And they get closer and closer and bolder and bolder. Till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody.
Saturday, November 14th, 2020, we'll be celebrating for hundreds of years as the second American Revolution.
I have one confidence in knowing that God is on our side. And if God is with us, then who is against us? USA! 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 USA!
We are unified by our spirit that God made and our connection to the Creator and the universe and our children. And we are unified. And this is the genesis point of the new revolution of information.